I can't hear. Dang it.
Hello.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, good. I still can't get the camera working, but the mic is on.
Yeah.
How you feeling today?
Oh, I'm doing good, doing good. Tired of the news. Oh my God.
Can't watch it. I can't watch it. Today is just one of those days I can't watch it.
Okay, I might have to buzz out because I have a phone call.
Okay, sweetheart. Divine Prince, where you at, baby?
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
You have not been able to hear me the whole time.
That's right. I've not been able
Oh
to hear
wow!
you.
Oh,
Wow.
oh wow! Okay, okay. Well,
And
let
Toni
me.
was on it too. She had to go take a phone call though.
Okay, well, she'll come back.
Yeah, we could
But
hear each other, but we couldn't hear you.
yes. Well, let me begin again. Welcome, 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 one and all, to another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. This is where we unpack and share all things revolutionary, revolutionary New Orleans, revolutionary tradition, culture, religion, spirituality.
It went out again. It went out again. It's still out.
It's Monday through Friday here at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I believe that's 7 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain. We invite you to join us here on all social media platforms where the links may be found, but always certainly here in StreamYard, streaming directly to my YouTube platform. And in the coming days, as we get better acquainted to the system, both Sister Toni and beloved Kim will be also streaming it directly to their YouTube pages. You are now listening live to the Divine Prince, Pan-African spiritualist, practitioner, author, and advisor, Elagun Oloye Hoodoo Obeya Bokor, sharing with you in all things spiritual, mystical, metaphysical, cosmic, universal, evolutionary, revolutionary, healing, and holistic from a Pan-African Hoodoo world spiritualist perspective. Understanding that all is truly and indeed a blessing if you can just see beyond the veils, for it is all just an illusion and a test, and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. Again, we air weeknights, Monday through Friday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. And our sponsors and promoters are the New Orleans National Voodoo Day, for which I am a co-creator of. And joining us on Monday night will be Lilith Dorsey, well-known book writer of all things tarot and witchy. She is also a co-founder, co-creator of National New Orleans Voodoo Day. And Denise Augustine, who was to join us tonight, but she's having a plumbing issue. So she will be with us also on Monday night. Also a beloved elder and co-creator and co-founder of New Orleans National Voodoo Day. You might hear me say NONVD, and I invite you to visit us, support us, join us, participate with us at www.v like Victor, ODOU, D like David, AY, voodooday.org, www.voodooday.org. Our festivities begin April 5th, 2025, with a symposium that will be held at Xavier University with a cadre of dignitaries from both Haiti, Paris, and Ouida, Benin. And then our official day of remembrance for the National New Orleans Voodoo Day is the next day, April 6th, and it will begin at the river with an opening ceremony conducted by Denise Augustine and several other dignitaries, again from both Haiti.
Boy, that was some good information. Huh, that was some good information.
The enslavement and selling of our ancestors, all the way till we reach the Tomb of the Unknown Slave at St. Augustine Church, and then you will make your way into Congo Square, where we will have a full-on formal voodoo ceremonies, bringing the 3 points of our new triangular power, West Africa, Central and South America, to include Haiti, and certainly North America, with New Orleans being the capital of voodoo in North America. And we will have a community unity ceremony on April 6th. There will also be food and vendors and crafts and other surprises that will be in store. And again, certain dignitaries and celebrities will be present there to be
The audio is cutting out.
and promotion of certainly that event, but also for the education and re-education of what voodoo is authentically. It is the ethno-cultural tradition of our people. And as we shared and beginning to share on yesterday evening, science now supports us in something that we've always known, and that is the presence of our ancestors that never leaves us, never departs from us. That ancestral memory survives in our DNA. So not only are our generational curses and our health quirks and whatnot passed down through our DNA, through the very coding of our blood, but also our gifts, our skills, our strength are passed down through our ancestral inheritance, our lineage by way of our blood. And it's only for us to activate that, to acknowledge that, to stand up in that. And certainly the connection between revolution and Haiti, revolution and voodoo demonstration on this side of the globe can never be shared, expressed, spoken of quite enough. It is indeed our Haitian relatives and the voodoo demonstration on the island at the time that introduced that birth revolution, freedom, liberation into this so-called new world, and ultimately affected how we lived here in North America then and continue to live now, primarily out of the fear of the release of power and strength and control that we managed to gain by way of voodoo that allowed us to create the revolution, the rebellion that created the first successful escape from colonization and enslavement in the New World. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along in today's show and certainly in coming shows, how the Black codes and many of the rules and regulations and oppressive orders that were put into place to control us, to keep us from gathering, to keep us from drumming, to keep us from learning to read, to keep us from demonstrating any African-based spirituality and tradition, was not out of some fear of the devil being manifest through our work, but was out of the fear of our empowering ourselves, regaining control of our mind, removing the very devil, the very curse, the very mind spell, the very God hyphen spell that had been placed on our own minds to enslave us in the first place, and then managed to do so for many numbers of years. So I'm going to open up the mics of my co-host, beloved Kim P4. We're going to let you go first since you had technical difficulties on last evening, and allow you to introduce yourself and share a moment with us. And then we will move on to our Queen Mother, Sister Toni.
Greetings, everyone. I am so glad to at least get my voice on here today. And we still working on getting my cameras connected. And I have every confidence that just like we got the audio today, we're going to get the video on Monday night at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time and 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And I am Kim Ford. I am the president and CEO of Community Recallers, which we are trying to make it a national Community Recallers. And I am honored to be on this forum. I am a native born and raised New Orleanian. And I am my ancestor, my grandmother commuted to New Orleans from a place called Bayou Gula, which was right along the Gulf of Mexico, the port of where the Indians had been operating a port long before we were enslaved and brought here to Louisiana. And I collaborate and organize with community leaders in justice and human rights advocacy. I support politicians and grassroots organizations to accomplish mutual goals in criminal, racial, human rights, and social justice initiatives. I help to strategize and lobby for political accountability in Louisiana, Texas, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Maryland, and I provide support with national, city, and statewide political campaigns as well, because I believe that leadership that is interested in the voice of the people and working to be accountable for the voice of the people is what I will support. And in saying that, I mean, hey, if you don't support what the people support, then it's a problem. You can find out what Community Recallers is all about, because that's our right as voting citizens to recall any elected official who is not operating in the best interest of the people they were elected to serve. And that's what I help to do. And I'm honored to be here again. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. I'm looking forward to the many conversations that we're going to have on this podcast every day. And I'm looking forward to the festival. That walk that we're going to walk is a walk that our ancestors went through while they were chained and dragged after going through so much torture. And I'm going to be honored to take that walk for my ancestors, for all of those that suffered that walk from the mighty Mississippi to Congo Square. So I'm looking forward to it. It's a nice route you have. I'm very pleased with it, and I'm very excited for April to come.
Yes, indeed. Go ahead. Go ahead, Toni.
Good evening, peace and blessings to everyone. My name is Toni Martinez. I was an activist. I have been out of the endeavors of activism for a while, but I'm getting back into them. I'm a lifelong resident of this historic and wonderful city of New Orleans, even though I was not born here. Circumstances of the ancestors returned me to this place. I was born in Chicago. And through a series of unfortunate events, at a very young age, I ended back here with wonderful adoptive parents. My adoptive mother was born in, and father, both were born in 1900. As a child, I was in a unique position to learn of her mother and grandmother. She was a midwife. They were very spiritual. At an early age, I was taught by my mother, who was a follower of Marcus Garvey. She followed him from New Orleans to New York and some few places in between. She was a Black Cross nurse. It wasn't until I went to Catholic school here in New Orleans that I even heard that Jesus was white, which 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 put me at odds with my catechism. Any of you who went to Catholic school knew that was catechism was when they taught us religion. That put me at odds with the nuns, who could not say, well, we're going to call your mother, because if they called her, she would simply say, where the lie at? He's not white. And I grew up in a household practicing voodoo daily in our daily lives, ritually. And I didn't know we were practicing voodoo until I started studying
I might
on
experience
spirituality.
suffering, so just stay with me. I might experience a little buffering. Just stay with me.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Toni.
And I didn't learn that we were practicing voodoo until I was in my 20s and started searching out my spirituality. I grew up in a dual religious household. My adoptive father, whom I just referred to as my father, was a Roman Catholic, and my mother was stomped down to the ground Baptist. And she would not allow any of my father's Catholicism in the house, other than I went to a Catholic school, because in those times, in the 60s and 70s, whatever religion your father was, that was the religion of the child.
Yeah.
So that's why I went to Roman Catholic Church, St. David, in the Lower Ninth Ward, where I grew up.
Yeah.
And they did not step foot in each other's churches. My mother went to church uptown around the Callio Project, Stronghold Baptist Church.
Uh-huh.
And it was there that she thrived. She was an usher and everything. But like I said, I did not know what she was doing was actually considered voodoo, because that word was never spoken by her. It was the spirit. Spirit says, my mother often talked to spirits. We had hardwood floors that creaked, and I just knew it was spirits visiting us. I learned about demons and spirituality at a very young age. The first book I began learning to read out of was her Bible. And by faith, as I mentioned yesterday, I am a Rastafarian. And basically, that's me. I raised my kids as I was raised, doing some of the same rituals that my mother did in our house. The horseshoe over the door, the saints over the door, the washing the front steps every morning with ammonia. But when I was a child, we used actual urine that was collected overnight from when we were asleep in a cleaned and sanitary, what she called a slop jar. It was a slop jar, but I guess we would call it a portable toilet, something akin to what someone in a sick room would use instead of going to the restroom. And as I got older and studied it, I realized that in the ammonia was the strength that's in our urine.
Mm-hmm.
We cleaned our house with a mixture of ammonia with a pinch of cinnamon and sugar. We wiped down the cabinets with it. Now, not enough sugar and cinnamon to draw the little creepy critters. But that's how we cleaned our house. We mopped our floors. Yes, we poured salt across our front door. She threw salt behind people she didn't want to come to her house.
Mm-hmm.
No more. Honestly. We
Yeah.
didn't buy brooms in August. We didn't sweep trash out the back door at night.
Yeah.
And I pass this on to my children, and they still do it to this day. Just recently on a phone call with my daughter, I heard her screaming out to her youngest, who was cleaning the kitchen, "Don't you sweep that trash out that back door."
Yes, indeed.
So now she's passing it on to the next generation. And I'm very honored to be here. And I want to say hello to the Honorable Kim Ford.
Oh, thank you.
So glad you could join us tonight. You had difficulties last night, and I was looking forward to you. So I'm looking forward to where this segment is going.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
It's so refreshing, I tell you, because we had some of them very same practices. My grandmother cleaned and swept that porch, and I was so young, I really did not understand what was happening, but she would do things like I know we were talking, y'all were talking about Reverend Ike last night, right? And so some kind of way Reverend Ike started sending her stuff in the mail. And he had sent her a fake prayer rug on a sheet of paper.
Yes. Oh my God.
And she made us go bury it in the backyard. She made us go bury it in the backyard. And she used to sweep with pepper when she didn't want somebody to come back to her house. She would sweep with pepper. If she knew somebody was coming over there, she put pepper. And she made us do it. She didn't do it because I had 51 first cousins.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, she didn't do it. And we were, my cousin and I were talking, man. And I mean, in the years of 1957 to about 1975, we were having 2 and 3 children born a month.
Wow.
I was like, God, how they did that? But because we all sit around and talk about the year and the month that we were born. So they would have a family event, and sometimes 7, 8 people would be there pregnant.
Wow.
And it was just like a rush that came down where everybody was pregnant at the same time, back to back to back to back to back.
Be fruitful and multiply.
And they
So,
did.
Kim,
They did do that.
At what age and what was the first circumstance when you heard or experienced or realized voodoo was happening in your family?
Well, it's still not talked about at all. Matter of fact, we couldn't say it. We had to. We whispered.
Mm-hmm.
We whispered. You know, because my grandmother had 3 brothers who were ministers, pastors. So we whispered it, and we went to their church every Sunday. We went to my uncle's church every Sunday, and it was a very non-traditional Baptist church because we were just learning their disciplines for religion and faith. And we also, like, if we could read scriptures from the Bible, we got favor with my grandmother. And when you have 57, you have so many children that you're responsible for. I had to earn my favoritism with my grandmother. And you learn that at a young age. I was 5 years old helping her in the kitchen. 4 years old, I was helping her. When I got 5, that's when she gave me a knife to let me devein the shrimp.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You had to work your way up the ladder. But she also took me with her to go to the spiritual church around the corner. And she didn't let nobody know where she was going. And she would tell me, don't you tell nobody where we're going. This ain't nobody's business, you know?
Yes, yes.
And I have not, but she often confided in me because I was smart. I could follow her lead and do what she told me to do and do it like she told me to do it. And she respected that. And that's why I always got to eat first. I ate first because I helped her cook. I helped her clean. And hey, and she would tell you, if you help me cook and clean, you're gonna be the first one. And the ones who were stupid and made her work harder, they ain't last.
Yes,
You know?
indeed.
Yes, indeed.
They have a saying that, they have a saying that 2 things can be true at the same time. So I had one lived experience, with voodoo as it relates to my father's side of the family, and did a very different experience as it related to my mother's side of the family. I remember the very first conversations or whispering of voodoo at all came from my father's side of the family, who hailed from Louise, Mississippi. Prior to that, Bogalusa, Louisiana. And just before Bogalusa became an incorporated city, as I mentioned last night, they, for whatever reason, migrated to Louise, Mississippi. And my great grandparents had a huge family. I think they had 14 children, if I'm not mistaken, and a great deal of land. And I grew up with the understanding that they were Black and Indigenous. I think a lot of us got that story, that telling that there was some degree of Indigenous, or what we used to call Indian, in our family.
Yeah.
And my great grandmother, Ola B. Broomfield, had long, straight, wavy hair, and she really gave, that Indigenous, Aboriginal appearance. And my great grandfather, Monroe Broomfield, probably would look more to what we would now describe as Creole, fair skin, curly hair. And so it was only until I discovered Ancestry.com and was able to access burial records, military records that I realized that first and foremost that there was very little Aboriginal or indigenous DNA in our blood, and that they were indeed mixed race, white and black more likely than indigenous and black. But for some reason, I'm learning through the history, many people masked of other ethnicities during that time out of
Yeah.
convenience, whether it was for money or to bypass a law or to gain access to something, or for just sheer survival. But voodoo was the first conversation as a toddler that I could remember, running around in Louise, underfoot. And it was about my great uncle, Uncle Nephus, and he was supposed to have been blinded by a woman who put some sort of potion, concoction, herb, something in his hat. And he went back out into the cotton field and sweat ran down in his eyes and he went blind. And so for the entirety of my life and certainly his life, that's all I heard about. And so the voodoo from that perspective was considered, dark and negative. And so it wasn't discussed and it was frowned upon. And I had a great aunt, my grandmother's sister, who loved to talk about it. And Vicky loved to talk about voodoo and what she was going to do once she got back to Louisiana and Mississippi and got her mojo back, because she was a part of that great migration to Chicago.
Yeah.
And so she was going to come back south and get her mojo back. Now, at the same time, I'm growing up in a very abusive household with the likes of my father. And we could do countless shows on my father, so I won't digress a whole lot about my dad. But my dad had multiple families, which we're really still to this day just clarifying who is who and what is what, and was very good at hiding things and hiding secrets. And his family over the years often credited it to him taking my mother down south every summer in July and having her rooted, having her hoodooed by someone in Mississippi, in the Delta. Negative connotation of the practice and the use is something that I heard first from that side of the family, and at a very, very young age. Now, my mother's side of the family, my grandmother was from Mississippi, but her father, who was from Baltimore, Maryland, Joseph Harris, somehow ended up migrating to Kirkwood, Missouri. And Kirkwood, Missouri, right outside of St. Louis, was a successful Black enclave at the time, much like Tulsa, Greenwood, I think it's called, and many other, towns that existed back then, where free Blacks had gathered and had managed to create their own businesses, gain their own housing, govern themselves, and had a lifestyle. And so he built a house there from ground up where he had my grandmother and her three sisters. And then my mother, was then, born in the house. And so the talk of voodoo was never heard, at least not until I would say well into the mid 80s was I able to get any open discussion about it from her side of the family. However, the evidence was everywhere, and it was in her house, and it was equally in her sisters' houses. The evidence of Orisha, for example. My grandmother had decidedly Oshun-like elements that she kept on her dresser and in her jewelry box, and little perfume bottles and oil bottles and things. Her sister, Christine Harris, had blue and white and very Yemayah-like items that she kept in the same location. Her dressing table, her dresser, and items that were in her closet. And the third sister, Alberta Harris, very Oshun-like attributes. And during the 70s, clay making, pottery was very popular in the Black community. You know, you were making, you know, figures with afros and Black power fists and cups and dishes and titty mugs, you know, in the 70s. That was a really popular thing that you would go to the local rec or the local community center to gather and make and create. And that was Alberta's thing. I still have some of her clay pottery, Oya-like clay pottery till this day. In fact, I still have pieces of my grandmother and my great aunt's jewelry space, personal space, and some of their ritual items I still possess till this day. But it was after I ran away from home as a teen and began to initiate and sit at the foot of elders and read books and be exposed to the practice and the system that I began to put two and two together and realize that there was something going on. And my mother's mother, Murtis, when she passed in 2000, her niece, her sister's daughter, ended up with all of her stuff. And it was then that we discovered floor washes, various, you know, bring me luck powder or bring me luck oil, or keep them quiet, you know, products, things that we would associate with modern day botanicas. We found those items. But the one thing that I found most peculiar in her jewelry box that I still possess today were little bundles of hair curled up around Black bobby pins that were crossed together like crosses, almost like a little cross. And then the hair is twirled.
You froze, Divine Prince. But I know what he's talking about with that hair. That's one thing my mama was a fanatic behind. Do not throw your hair away. It had to be burned or flushed down the toilet.
That's right. That's right.
And when
Same
I
here.
did ask her why, she told me that, oh, birds will get it and make a nest with it and you'll go crazy.
There you are.
Yeah, we had that too.
There you are.
We had that too. We could. She didn't let. My
So I did
grandmother was
ask my
so big
mother.
on
She
the
knew
hair.
what.
The hair was a big thing because
Yes, and so were
and
her
she had
sisters.
long hair
Yeah,
down
now
her
they
back.
could. You
You can hear me now.
can y'all hear me?
You going in and out,
Yeah,
Prince?
yeah.
But
Okay.
my mother passed when I was 12, and to this day, I wonder what all I would have learned from her if she would have lived longer until I got older. But one thing she was adamant about was do not let anyone get your hair or any of your bodily fluids, meaning
Yes.
from the women of female advantage, any of your menstrual blood.
Whew. Could not.
And if I
And
faded out, if I didn't mention it, or the Wi-Fi faded out, my grandmother had a beauty salon in her basement. She was the neighborhood beauty salon in Kirkwood. So she was, you know, absolutely comfortable around hair and had that understanding about hair. All of her sisters burned their hair.
yes,
There was no such thing as picking your afro or getting your hair braided or done, and then just throwing that hair away. It had to be burned. It had to be burned.
Yes, it
They
did.
let
It
us
did.
throw it away. We could throw it away, but you had to wrap it up. It couldn't be. It would. They would have to really go through the garbage to find it. You couldn't just take hair and throw it in a garbage can. No, you had to put that in a bag and tie it up. And you couldn't. My grandmother had so many things about her hair, and she used to say, "Look, I'm not superstitious. This is just what the way that it is. You cannot, And she had so many grandchildren, and we all wanted to play in her hair, and we could not because she never let more than one comb be in her
At a
hair at a time.
time.
She couldn't let more than one comb be in her hair at a time.
Yes.
No, you couldn't do that. She didn't do that, and she didn't let anybody. Just anybody, they couldn't touch her hair for one thing. Even after Katrina, when she was 99 years old, and they had her in the shelter, and my grandmother lost her sight also, so she was blind. But they said, "Oh, Miss Washington, can we put our hands? We wanna lay hands on you and pray." And she said, "Oh, no, baby, you can stand right there. I can hear you just fine right there." She was a mess. Oh, she was a mess. Oh yeah. She was so fiery and just about it. She didn't take no anything at all. And that's who raised me too. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm starting to understand a lot about who I am and why I am the way that I am, because I don't have fear. And she didn't, none of us could have fear. None of us could. We didn't have fear. She didn't raise us that way. We didn't have fear. You have to be the strength that you seek. You have everything. God gave you everything when you were born. You can do anything you desire to do. And she was about that life. You couldn't come there and just do anything. We had rules and regulations. And that brum, even right now, I don't play with no brum.
Oh
And see,
no.
if I go in a restaurant and somebody sweeping around me,
Don't sweep my feet.
don't I don't even know if they got to sweep while I'm in a place eating, then that's disrespectful to me. They may as well slap me in my face because you cannot sweep around me at all. No. I got my things. And see, by me I spent all my life in New Orleans. So these things, y'all, a lot of things I didn't realize didn't happen in other places until after Katrina. You know what I'm saying? I really did
Yes.
not understand that. I just didn't understand that other people don't live like we live in New Orleans. I didn't know.
Yeah. But I also think in terms of, hoodoo, conjure, voodoo, ethnocultural tradition, you grow up in a certain environment, you grow up seeing and experiencing certain things, and you either just assume that that's the way it is, or that it's, unique to maybe your mama or your parents or your scenario. There's nothing that gives you the hint that there's something unifying across the collective about it. And I think, religion plays a big role into why that disconnect exists, because we have that idea that it's got to be something overt and wicked and offensive and oppressive. Otherwise, it's just, wives' tales, or it's just superstition, or at best it's just some extension of your God-fearing belief, but we won't go into detail about it. That's
One thing I want to touch upon with Kim said, she said it was whispered about. Voodoo was whispered about.
Right.
Me and the Divine Prince have known each other for a while, over 30 years actually. And we've had those conversations when I was talking to him about, you know, voodoo in New Orleans in the Black community. Everybody said, oh, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that. And it's whispered about other people who, like the Divine Prince said, his dad would bring his mother down and have something done to her in that area. Before Katrina, voodoo wasn't out in the open like it is now, even though we had Marie Laveau and every Black person in New Orleans, especially those with my complexion, was related to Marie Laveau, but they didn't believe in it. And they whispered about it. And the men, as a child, in my 12, 13, 14, after my mother died, I tended to wanted to hear the conversation of my friends' mothers instead of being with my friends. And most of the time, you cannot sit amongst women as a child and listen to their conversation.
That's right. That's right.
But I would manage to position myself in a way that I could hear the conversation, but I couldn't hear the conversation, if y'all know what I mean. Because I was curious. I wanted to know what they was talking about. Yeah. And we were in yards and the men shot dice and they played spades and we played tonk and pitty pat at picnic tables. And
That's
you
right.
could hear the men conversation and the thing that men were big on. Oh no, don't eat no red gravy.
Yeah.
I don't eat no red gravy. It took me a while to figure that out, but
yeah,
you know, but nobody believed in it. But the city was full of botanicas in the 70s.
Don't forget those things.
The city was full
just
of
breaking
botanicas.
Up a little bit. I was going to say, and don't forget those little rituals that many Black families still do to this day around New Year's and other holidays.
Yeah. It was every holiday. It was the same. It wasn't even any conversation about whether or not you were going to eat
cabbage.
Right, and black-eyed peas.
Yeah,
that's right.
That was for the money for the year. To bring that year in with money, but it was a lot of botanicas during those times all over the city, because as I got in my mid-20s, I was going a lot of different places around. I had moved from the lower Ninth Ward. I don't remember a botanica being in the lower Ninth Ward, but I do remember spiritualist churches, which people call holy rollers. They was holy rollers. The churches, the spiritualist churches.
Indeed.
They were called holy rollers. But as I ventured out into the uptown area around Dryads, which a lot of people might not know, that's now called OC Haley. Yes. Dryads and Jackson Avenue and 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Street, and you couldn't walk. I mean, looked like every 4 blocks was a botanica. But it thinking about it, back on it, I was like, but nobody believed in it. So you know they were sneaking in there after dark, going in the back door, getting whatever they needed because they gambled. They was trying to get a man. And all these other things, but in public, oh, I don't believe in that. Oh, I don't believe in that. But then you would hear them make comments amongst the women group sitting, girl, I'm going with me a pork chop.
Yes, indeed.
But why is you wearing a pork chop if you don't believe in that?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
But
It's
it
just like
can't.
the movie. It's just like the movie Skeleton Key, where the black girl said, "Oh no, I don't believe in it, but I ain't gonna mess with it."
That's
Yes,
right. That's right. Yeah.
yes, yes.
I don't mess with. I respect the voodoo. I respect the hoodoo.
Mhm.
You know, I do. I do. I do. And I got my things. You know, I got my things, and I got my things, and I ain't gonna say no more. It is what it is.
Yeah, it
You know,
is what it
don't
is.
mess with me.
When I
We have
did question my mother on why we did certain things, and she would feel like talking, she said the things were to protect our family,
Yeah,
never
protect,
to
cause
do harm or pay notice to anybody else. Just protect your own. And that's the way I grew up, looking at it, as to protect my family and close friends. As I really got older in my last few years, when I had friends that were going through certain things, and they would ask, what can I do? I said, well, I
Mhm.
don't know if you into this, but here you go. This what you can do. And they would do it, and they was like, girl, um, my second husband, after me and him had split up, well, they knew about some of my practices and what it was rooted in. His mother came to me because of the woman that he was with, and they believed she had cast a voodoo spell on him to stay with her because he had very bad stomach pains to where he was crawling on the floor. And she kept telling his mother it was an ulcer, not knowing he had told his mother that the doctor said they didn't know what it was, but for sure it was not ulcers. So they came to me to ask me, literally, could I break the spell? I said, I can tell you what to do to break the spell. Oh no, I'm scared I'll do it wrong. Can you do it for me? Now, this my ex-husband. I wish she had him crawling on the floor all day and all night. No, not really. But that spell got broken and he left her. And to this day, his brothers who were younger at the time and his sister be like, I don't mess with Val. She could do you stuff, but I'm not going to do you nothing to hurt you. I was actually protecting him from someone who was doing him something evil. Because in my eyes, if you got to do that to keep a man, you don't need one.
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah.
And you would really be surprised at the number of people who denied doing it. How they found out that the woman was doing it is when they went to a funeral at her mother's house. And my young sister-in-law was looking for the bathroom, and she thought it was under the stairs, like in the condos.
Mhm.
And she opened what was a closet. And when she opened the closet, she saw all the candles and the altars and everything in there. And she went and told her mother, who was my mother-in-law. So that's how they first said that that's what she must be doing when they found that out. But I will do things to protect my friends, but never hurt anybody and my family. Don't mess with my family.
Mhm.
So, you know, the divine prince know how to take that
Oh yeah.
and to protect my well-being. One thing my mother adamantly did not allow in her house, I do not allow in my house, and my children do not allow in their houses, is peanuts.
Yes, indeed.
Oh
Really?
my God, peanut shells. I knew that was the first thing I ever heard that it was called a root. It was a powerful root, is what my mama told me. Now, I did not understand that for years to come, exactly what she meant by being a powerful root.
Mm-hmm.
But she said people could work anything on a peanut and leave it in your house to destroy your household because it was a very absorbent shell, not like a pecan or walnut shell. It would absorb kind of like paper, and they could put it in a place you would never see, drop it behind your sofa, behind your chiffon robe, or wherever, and your whole house would be just tore up, you know. So the one thing I scream, don't come in my house with no peanut shells, you know. So I grew up with a lot of rules that I later learned in life were rooted in and stemmed from voodoo practices.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that's doing things in their house that they mama did and their grandmother do. They don't know why they're doing it, but it's rooted in voodoo practices.
That's right. And we've become disconnected from the purpose or the meaning or the fullness of the ceremony or the practice itself. Particularly, my generation, the Generation X, the generations that came behind us, after us, with what comes with the internet and access to the World Wide Web and just information superhighways, what they used to call.
Mhm.
The audio is out again. But I grew up wonderfully. I was glad it was divine intervention.
History that speaks to the practice and the tradition, and so their curiosity is sort of being fed in that way. Now, what I would like to also see is the mentorship, the eldership, the leadership kicking in, so that we are passing down the information. People are learning and initiating and gaining access to the order of things the way they've been traditionally, as they continue to grow and evolve in new ways. Uh, the sort of free-for-all search for information at some point has to begin to be supplemented with people in position, elders, mentors, learned, practiced individuals who can then pass down that knowledge in a way that didn't happen between the silent generation and the baby boomers and Generation X. We are right at the top of the hour. I certainly appreciate everyone for showing up and being present here with us. Everyone who showed up in the chat, I'm certainly grateful for your continued support and attendance. Those of you who've been with me since Blog Talk Radio, and certainly those who are coming in new, we appreciate you. I want to thank my co-host, Kim P. Ford, Toni Val Martinez. I look forward to sitting with you at Monday night at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. We will be joined by book author and also administrative team member and co-creator of New Orleans National Voodoo Day, Lilith Dorsey. Some of you know Lilith Dorsey, book author, writer for tarot books and a little bit of everything witchy. And she has a grasp on world spirituality and tradition outside of just ATR and what we do here. That will bring a great deal of information and motivation and energy to Monday night's conversation. Prayerfully, we'll also have our elder, the beloved Denise Augustine.
That's my girl.
Yes, she should also be with us on Monday night. And you never know who else might show up to be with us for another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes, right here, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, Monday night. I believe that's February 3rd, 2025. Until that, remembering that all is truly and indeed a blessing if you can see beyond the veils, and no matter what you do, respect the voodoo. Ashe.
I say,
Ashe.
I say,
Ashe.
I say.
Peace and blessings. Good evening,
Peace and
all.
blessings.
Peace and blessings.